is the Director of Development for Faith, and any of you who have been to the Living Nativity out there at Christmas time, this is the guy that is responsible for that. He's also been active in getting the Faith West Church established over here, and he's going to tell us about what they're doing at the North Project today. He's got a really interesting background. He studied stage management and lighting at the School of the Arts in Winston-Salem. That's where he received his Bachelor of Arts. And then, in 1978, he came to Purdue to get a Master's of Arts degree in Theatrical Management and Design. And he's worked all over the country with groups like the Beach Boys and some others, which I'll let you tell some of that story because it's pretty interesting. Then, after he graduated with his master's degree in '78, he went to work at WLFI TV. And he and Bob Ford took that station to a high level. And then in the 90s, he was tapped to work at the Journal and Courier and moved that thing way up. And then he went out to Boise, Idaho for 6 years and worked for a newspaper out there. And then he also worked for a rehab hospital, raising money for them. But then, tell me again, the main guy, Steve Byers, kept calling him, wanting him to come back to Lafayette and work at Faith Church. So he came back here in 2003 as the Director of Development for Faith. So with that little introduction, I will turn this over to Arvid and let you tell us all about it.
I would be remiss to not say that I have. What I wanted to talk about is, for some folks, it's the idea of a ministry doing some of the things we're doing. It's like, why are you doing that? And honestly, this started about 15 years ago, roughly. And we had reached a point where we were financially stable, we had money in the bank, our congregation was growing, and normally at that point a church has a discussion as to whether they're going to build a bigger auditorium. Now, I swear, if you go look in a dictionary under the definition church auditorium, it's a big expensive building that stays empty 6.5 days a week. And so that was the debate. And we would be able to go from having 3 services on a Sunday to 2 services on a Sunday and spend $9 million doing it. That's what we looked at. And so the discussion that came up was, well, what else could we do? And then somebody said, well, are there any needs around us? And then somebody else raised their hand and said, has anyone even asked them what the needs are? And so that started a whole process of asking people what the needs were in the area around us. I would say this politely. There are a lot of ministry organizations out there with good intentions, but the community around them doesn't even know what they do. And I don't think that's good stewardship, personally. I think we need to be engaged. We need to be involved with the people around us in what I would call the parish. I came to Lafayette in 1978. About 1982, when I was at WLFI, the Historical Association asked if I would go into the north end of Lafayette and interview the old retired railroad workers before they frankly passed away and put their memories down on tape. And I remember talking with a gentleman who started with the railroad in 1911. Okay, just to give that a perspective. He worked 6.5 days a week. He had Sunday mornings off to go to church. So he would work 6.5 days a week. His first vacation, he was excited, was in 1927. He started in 1911. That's what it was like back then. Now, at the same time, if you looked at the north end, and I'll circle back around to this in a few minutes, in 1982, it was neatly painted houses, little white picket fences, flowers neatly all around the house, lawns nicely manicured, nice little small homes all over the north end. That's what the north end looked like. If you drive through the north end today, it doesn't look like that. You know, in the north end is, frankly, is St. Lawrence, a lovely church. Back in the day, you know, let's call him Father Mike, knew everybody in his parish. He knew the widow. He knew the kids that were orphaned and needed a hand. He knew when a family got laid off and food would show up at the door. He knew when somebody needed a scuttle of coal to get him through to the next paycheck. He knew the Garfinkels. You know, the Garfinkels probably didn't go to St. Lawrence, but he knew them. He knew everybody. What we want to do, and what we believe is important for community, is that we know our parish. We know the people around us. So that's where loving our community comes from. So simply put, in 2007, having talked to people around the Faith East parish, out past east of Meyer, we realized what the demand was out there was they'd built a lot of subdivisions, a lot of development had gone on, there was no walking trails, there was no place to play basketball, there were no meeting places, so they had built a community, frankly, without a heart. And in talking to them, when you start peeling it apart, what they were really saying is, we need a YMCA. And actually, we did talk to the YMCA, and they just weren't quite ready to go east. Now they are. They're doing a beautiful job down next to Ivy Tech, as a matter of fact, kind of across from Menards. It's a marvelous facility that they're preparing. So what we did was we built the Faith East Community Center. This is a 65,000 square foot facility, has a large gymnasium in it with a walking track around, indoor walking track. We have a pool, we have a full fitness center, we have a second gymnasium in the back, we have meeting rooms, we have a preschool operating in there, we have a food pantry and clothing exchange as well. We're part of the network of folks that provide food in our area. Those are the needs. We also did something, there had been a lot of talk about the need for a skate park in our county. And the municipalities kept getting tied up about the litigation and liability and all of that, and the expense. We frankly just built one. And yes, we have about a 5-figure policy that is attached to that. I'm still trying to get an orthopedic surgeon to sponsor it. They can make a lot of money. But we built a skate park. Why would we do that? Because there are young people who are, for the most part, loners, and if you don't provide them something to do and a place to call their own, what's called a third space, they can get into mischief. And they can kind of fall astray. Why? Because nobody's home when they get home. They're on their own. Well, if they come here, and we have 800 young people that have releases to be able to skate there at their own risk and work. Do you know that has been open for 11 years? We've never had a graffiti problem. Nobody's tagged it. Nobody's trashed it. They pick up the trash around it. Why? What's important to people is, number one, their personal space, their home. The second space that matters is where they have to be, whether that's a job, whether that's school, whatever else. Third space is where they like to be. And so what we try to do is create third spaces. The skate park is a third space for those folks. So this has been going for about 11 years in meeting the needs out in that area. Out behind, we built a very nice community park. You have to build a retention pond nowadays. You can hardly do a building without a retention pond. Well, instead of fencing it in and saying it's dangerous, slope it down more, stock it with fish, put a walkway around it, and turn it into a park. It's the same thing. It processes the water beautifully. So we did that. We were then approached by a small private foundation that said we need to do something for women at risk. These are women with unplanned pregnancies, who've suffered sexual abuse, who've been trafficked, which is a horrid problem. They've gone through drug abuse, they've gone through self-abuse, eating disorders, cutting, things like that. They want to get back on their feet, ages 14 to 28. We agreed, but we said, we're in the middle of building a community center. They said, at least do a feasibility study for us. We wrote the feasibility study, they looked at it, and they said, fine. And they provided somewhere in excess of $2.7 million. That allowed us to construct a 17,000 square foot facility which provides care around the clock for these women at risk for 1 to 2 years while they put their act back together. That facility has about a 25% graduation rate. Nationally, facilities have about an 8% graduation rate that do the same type of thing. So we're really working with folks and helping them get back on their feet, to build good habits in their lives and everything, and go back to being a responsible part of our community. From there, Faith West. We had for years had a Purdue Bible Fellowship over at Purdue, and we'd had a desire to provide, because there was a demand for it, for counseling. You know, a student goes through a breakup with their fiance, and all of a sudden they're a mess. All of a sudden they start missing classes, now they're in trouble and everything else. And these are people that are sometimes in their junior or even the beginning of their senior year, and everything derails. Well, what's going to happen to those folks? What they really need is to talk to somebody who can help work with them and get them back on track. Get them to understand this is part of life, and how to work through it and how to deal with it in an appropriate way. So we actually looked at a small lot right across from Mackey Arena. Easy instructions where to go. City came back and said, it's too small, you'd overrun it, we don't believe you should be there. We agreed with them reluctantly. We looked at the old Smitty site. Great site, very nice site, nice 2-acre site. There was a little tiny EPA problem there. They had done some solvents when they cleaned in Smitty's, had leached out of a leaky pipe under the building. No one knew about it, and there was a plume under there. Nobody knew how big the plume was. It could have gone all the way halfway to the core of the earth for all we knew, and so we had to back out of that. And then we ended up looking at the old Family Inn site, which was, to be polite, as the neighbors would call it, a hot mess. It had gone through 2 bankruptcies by developers, and we acquired that, and we did a lot of listening to folks, a lot of listening. The problem the neighbors had is nobody had ever listened to them, and we started saying, what do you want? It was funny, the first time we said that, the first person's voice was, you'll have to give us a minute, no one's ever asked us what we wanted. Well, what did they want? They wanted walking trail, they wanted a little park area, maybe a little playground, they wanted a restaurant, they wanted childcare, they want some meeting spaces, they wanted a basketball area. You cannot do anything in Indiana without building a basketball court, but it's a rule of thumb. So those are a number of things they wanted. They also said, when you build a building, would you build it at the front of the property, not at the back, not in our backyard? And we agreed. We asked, because this was a larger piece of land, 6 acres, could we do student housing if we did a covenant agreement for behavior? They agreed, and in 2013 we opened the Faith West Community Center. We have 119 beds upstairs in that on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors. We've had 100% occupancy since day one. It's been very, very, very popular, very successful, and it has worked well. I hope some of you have stopped in at Cafe Literato. You know, I'll tell you what, the Christos are a wonderful family, and they've done a beautiful job in there. And so what we have been trying to do is to listen to the community around us and meet the needs. From there, the city of Lafayette, Mayor Rozwarski came to us and said, the North End again. Remember the nice North End I talked about in 1982? It didn't look that way. Too many homes had gone into ownership of absentee owners in New York, overseas, and all they were doing was draining the money out of it, running it into the ground, and then they would walk away from it when it was a total wreck. And so homes are turning into total wrecks. And homes are turning into places where people were dealing drugs. You know, you don't think about the impact on the block you live on. If 2 houses down, there's junk in the front yard, there's dead furniture on the porch, okay? And you know they're up to something. You know, how's that going to affect housing prices? How that's going to affect the quality of life in your neighborhood? So the bottom line was this. Our charge was, if you take and you acquire the worst house in the block, the condemned one, the boarded up one, if you acquire the worst house in the block and you put it back in a right shape for that neighborhood, you know, fully inspected, fully, you know, rightly rebuild it, rehab it, you stop that block from rotting. You do that to 2 houses on that block, you change the block. You put good people in there. You do that enough and you start changing the neighborhood, you do that enough and we will change the north end. So, since 2013, we have been working one house at a time. We'll buy a house for about $40,000 and you wouldn't want to walk in it without getting all your shots. We will put probably $60,000 into that house. You know, new plumbing, all new wiring, HVAC, you know, new roof, that. We work with good bones, but we basically rebuild a house. And we try to maintain the historical integrity of that home when we do it. We are allowed to train and look for and recruit first-time home buyers. And there are a variety of financial tools available to encourage these first-time home buyers in a home like this. Now, we have $100,000 in the house. We will sell that house for about $75,000. Well, that is not a real good business plan unless what happens is the federal government reimburses us to the total of about $110,000. So we take the $10,000 we made off of that and we roll it into the next house, and into the next house, and into the next house. And that's how we are working through changing this. These are a couple of the houses, the before over there, the after on that side. And we continue to do that. We're in our 8th house right now that we're rehabbing. And we have a goal of doing 100 homes in the north end. That's what we want to accomplish in our lifetime. So from that, we were invited. Some of you who have been around here a long time may remember the old cooler keg. It was the best pork tenderloins, hands down, hands down. Corner of 6th and Hartford. Just below the TRW. Great place. You know, you want to go in the afternoon, not at night, but it was good. Well, in 2012, that went into receivership and was taken over by the city for back taxes. And it sat there, and it just started decaying, and it started, let's just say, growing some critters that you really don't want in your neighborhood. We bought that and the lot across the street from it, from the city, for $1. And I will tell you right now, folks, we realize now we overpaid. We overpaid for that. What we did was we knocked down the cooler keg. We put up the Hartford hub across the street, and where the cooler keg was, we did a neighborhood pocket park that has playground, it has a splash pad, it has a barbecue, it has a picnic shelter, it has basketball, little 3-point basketball court, you know, a good place to play horse and things like that. And across, we built a house, and you notice the most important thing about that house is the porch. What happens when you go down there and talk to people? They communicate, they know what's going on because they spend the evenings, and if they're older, they spend a lot of their time out on the porch. They talk across the street to one another. It's porch culture. You know, they're not in watching TV. They are out on the porch. And so we built a building with a very large porch, about a 3,000 square foot community building. And it is packed. Because here's what happens. The kids come out of school, come out of Miller, and the bus drops them off. Who's home? And that part of the north end, 81% of the kids go home to single parent homes. Well, mom's working. Mom's working 2 jobs. Mom will be home at 9 o'clock maybe, you know, from her jobs. Who is looking after that 4th grader? You know, can they get into mischief? Who is making sure they do their homework? Well, now they come to us. And we have teachers who after hours will be down there mentoring them, looking after them. They can't play until they do their homework. They can't play. They got to do their homework. We oversee it. We make sure. You know, the good grades, they go up on the wall type of thing. You get to know the parents and build a level of trust. About 5:30, the sandwiches show up. You know, we kick them out at 8:30 and send them home. And we have started to encourage these kids, because I'll tell you what, if they can't read by the time they hit 4th grade, they will not graduate from high school. Any guess who's going to be paying for their living wages the rest of their life? Us. Yeah, I'd much rather have them learn to be productive. You start reading the paper right now, what are people crying for? Tradesmen and women. You know, craftspeople. You know, people, there will be a shortage of mechanics, there will be a shortage of electricians, there will be a shortage of plumbers if we don't watch out. These people, if they are told how and given the opportunity, they will become the backbone of our community in years to come. That's what we're trying to do, trying to change that. Well, out of that, here's some friendships that are being built, just some visions from the Hartford Hub. New friendships. Racial reconciliation going on. We're very serious about that. Purdue students coming down and mentoring and teaching somebody with their homework. Working and play. That's somebody that, as a matter of fact, I believe in the phys ed program, helping them do safe play. Again, more mentoring going on. Just a great opportunity, just a lot of fun with these young people. So that brings us to the North End Community Center. We realized that we needed to bring together partners to really seriously impact this part of our community. And the mayor begged us to look at how to do this in a good way. So we started casting a net and talking to a lot of people and determining who we needed to partner with. These people had skill sets that we didn't. I'll be honest. We didn't know how to do a Head Start program. We didn't know how to come up with a senior program that would feed seniors. That was not our skill. We didn't know how inner city African Americans, what they wanted, what they were interested in, and what they did. But the Hannah Center did. The Jengstra Senior Center, now Tippecanoe Senior Center, did. Bauer Family Resources did in terms of childcare. So we started bringing together partners. And this is a 114,000 square foot, $16.5 million development that will be open on time and on budget on roughly about August 1 of this year. It is on Elmwood Avenue. It's just next to Arnie's, as a matter of fact. So if you are here a long time, you remember the old Payless. That was on Elmwood, which became New Community School. It's now closed at the moment. Between that and Market Square, there is a 6-acre tract there. Once was a cornfield, once was old houses back to the 1870s. That is where we are, and this is what we're developing. I'm going to give you a quick tour and go through it, but first of all, it's a collaborative place. So what we're looking at is teen engagement, indoor pools. We have a bakery and restaurant in there. We will be doing car repair and training young people to work on cars. And who are we doing car repair for? We're doing car repair for veterans, for widows, for low-income folks, for single parents. Because I'll tell you what, in Tippecanoe County, if you don't have a car, you don't have a job. If you don't have a job, you can't keep your family together. They get busted up. So you stop it where it starts. You make sure the transmission works. You make sure the brakes are safe. You make sure the battery is replaced. Things like that for folks who pay what they can afford only. Family homelessness is being addressed there. Leagues, senior programming, mentoring, job training. We have a co-working space inside the facility as well. Give you a real quick tour through. These are the partners we're working with. Hannah Community Center is moving their facility off of 18th Street over into this. Do you know, why does Hannah Community Center exist? 75 years ago, blacks were not welcome in Columbian Park. They weren't welcome in the pool. They weren't welcome to play in the swings. They were not welcome. So they did their own community center, the Hannah Center. And that's how that started. Now, on their 75th anniversary, they're finally moving into a place where right down the hallway is a pool, next to it's a fitness center, across from it is a double-sized gym. And all of the amenities that they need so desperately to meet and reach out to their constituents in the area. We're working with Purdue University. Reclaimed Hope, talk about in a bit, goes on Meals on Wheels. Senior Center, Bauer Resources, Shine On University, working with special need adults. And on through, we have brought all these folks in. Restaurants, as much as we love Cafe Literato on the west side, the Flower Mill Bakery is opening a full restaurant and cafe and a bakery in this space. Good stuff. Really good stuff. Family Promise of Greater Lafayette addressing family homelessness, Big Brothers, Big Sisters. The Latino Center for Health and Wellness is moving in here. This is their first formal space they've ever had. So, with that, give you a real quick tour of the facility. The road down at the bottom there is Elmwood coming across. The large blue thing was the old Payless, now the new community school, just to give you a proximity. Notice in the back we have soccer fields. They're designed to have 3 kids soccer fields or a full regulation soccer field in that space. And so now we'll walk through and look inside the facility. Outside, first of all, Family Promise of Greater Lafayette, 5 homeless apartments. Average time a family in a homeless situation needs assistance is 28 days. Bottom line is this: the refrigerator goes out for a family right on the bubble, or a problem with the car, or a kid gets sick, they can't make their payment for their home. They can't make the payment for the home, the family get busted up and put in foster care. What we're doing is providing an umbrella for those folks, give them 28 days, help them stay together, and they'll be back in a place, and they remain working the entire time and productive. So that's what we're trying to do and work with them. Next to that is Car Works. That is a facility we'll be operating where we're doing car repair after we do a proper assessment of folks to make sure that they truly have the needs they have, and then we'll work with them to their ability. We move inside the facility here, the first floor. We have in the back Bauer Family Resources. They will have 3 Head Start preschool classrooms. The Hannah Community Center is down there on that corner with a much larger and expanded space, meeting their needs. Also, we have the Lafayette Senior Center and Meals and Wheels. They're moving from the Jenks Rest space in Columbian Park. That building, again, has reached its end of its life, just as Hannah's building has reached the end of its life. We also have Reclaimed Hope in the front. That is working out our Vision of Hope program. This is a retail store of repurposed items, things that have been rehabbed and put back together again. The young ladies have done it. They've understood cost. They've understood pricing. And what this teaches is them retail skills. They look at the P&L. They're part of every inch of the process along this. Because what we're trying to do is give them marketable skills so when they're out on their own, they can get a job and keep a job and get promoted and move up. Next to that is the Flower Mill Bakery and Cafe. That'll have a drive-up, by the way, as part of that. If we then move, and I would also go back and say, the center of this is a double-sized gymnasium. I tell people it's large enough to turn a plane in the air. It is monstrously huge. In fact, I may have a photo of it coming up here in a little bit. We have a multi-purpose gymnasium in the back. You remember those play gyms that had at Chick-fil-A or McDonald's, those big things? This thing is almost four levels high. And we have 2 of them age-graded inside that space for young folks. So what we're trying to do, also down in the front, the green area there is a pool. I'll show you a photo of it under development. Next to it is a fitness center. Up on the second floor, we have a mentoring space that we're operating. Working with folks, counseling, things that we've been doing out at East, we're moving it into the north end. Next to that, we have Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They have been in way too small a space for too long. It's kind of held them back. They're able to go into a space that's 3 times larger than what they currently have for a quarter of what they're currently paying in their monthly expenses. They're going from $1,700 a month to $400 a month. The partners that are coming in there, they're rent-free. So what's the $400 cover? Their utilities and maintenance fees, for upkeep outdoors and snow removal. That's it. That's all they pay. They paid no development costs. We covered all of that. They're moving in for free. They just have to equip their facility. We will also have our offices up there. We're really glad the Latino Center that does the Latino Festival in September does a number of other outreaches during the year. These are the folks that are leading the way in terms of communication among Latin American folks in this area here. They're doing a wonderful job. This will be their first permanent space, and they're in that area right there just next to our offices and staff space. Also up there is a walking track, about 8 times around is a mile. inside the gymnasium, so that's heated year-round, elevator up, elevator down. Also, now this is where this gets wild, is if you walk out on the second level, these two doors here, you're out in the outdoor hockey rink. Now, it's not an ice rink. It's what's called floor hockey, but that'll be out there. Yes, there's barricades, so you won't be seeing people body checked off the roof or anything like that, thank heavens. But that's what we're working on. This is what we're seeing in construction right now. Elmwood is right along here. This is Market Square. Arnie's is about right here. Market Square Lanes is back right about in this area here. So this is the main building. These two pads here are in the process of being built. We'll talk about those here in just a second. So this is a look at the pool. It is a zero-depth entry. It is fully handicap accessible. When you get down to the end of the ramp, you go into the heated whirlpool. That's the first point you go in. Back in this area here, for young people and everything, is spray pad. So these are water effects. So it's a zero depth area for kids to play in, but there's water, splashing around. So, there's no danger of drowning or anything like that because the water at no time is more than a quarter inch, flowing into the pool. The area you're looking at, the long trough there, is a full length lap for 3 or 4 lanes. So that's what that is. This is the 2 buildings that are being built outside and their construction process. The one here is Family Promise. That's 5 apartments, 5 family-based apartments in that space to meet the needs for homelessness. And then this is the Car Works facility. So this is coming. As I said, we're on schedule. We're very excited about it. One of the things, I was hoping that Josh Carson would be here. He runs the fitness center. Let's say that you had made a decision to become a member of the fitness center at Faith West. Well, guess what? Your membership allows you to get into the new one where we're putting $700,000 of fitness equipment into our new community center. That's about a 4,000 square foot community fitness center, which is right next to the lockers and the showers. So that's part of that. So that's one of the things that we see as important, is having and encouraging fitness. There'll be classes, there'll be a variety of things which are age graded as well, and we're going to do some of those things, especially for folks who are, how do I put this delicately, my age and possibly a tad older, possibly Sam's age. Were you on the phone with your parents earlier or something when the phone rang? I was just curious. I was just checking.
But put his smartphone down.
I know. I mean, these kids. Anyway, they will have a number of programs that make it, fun for exercise and a good opportunity, along with the billiard parlor they're going to have and all of the things that will be in their senior center. So that's a quick story. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Wow.
Where does the money come from?
That's a wonderful question. Where it comes from, and this is handed out, but I'll give you a very quick rundown of that. We have a very, very generous donation from the John Schumann family of $5 million to get started. We then, the Faith Community Development Corporation has been able to manage their money wisely. They were able to put $2 million toward this. The city of Lafayette did $1.5 million. They looked at that as economic development, and very justifiably. We were able to go, and this is a very rare thing, we were able to go apply, which is available to any not-for-profit, religious or otherwise. We were able to receive $4 million in new market tax credits. It was a double year, and we went after it, and we were able to receive those. And the rest of that is foundation grants. We had some nice support from North Central Health Services. And then we also did a campaign. When it's all said and done, there are somewhere between 600 and 650 donors, organizations, or companies that have been involved in funding this $16.5 million. Great question. Anything else? Yes, sir.
How much has you involved or worked with the other churches or religious organizations in that? Bethany Presbyterian is close by, and there's some Christian churches there. Have they been involved at all?
We have offered opportunities for collaboration and to work with them, as we have done at West. And honestly, some are some are more interested in doing things with us. For example, right now, Harvest Chapel had been holding services at the old new community school building and were evicted by the owner. Long story. We have had them housed out at Faith in the Faith East Community Center, and they've been holding church out there. And they'll be out there for a few more months. We've done that for no charge. So we're happy to work with them. Some folks look at us kind of like you'd look at a grizzly bear living next door to you. They don't know what to do with you.
But it's a huge opportunity for them to partnership with you, but I just don't know if any effort's been done there.
Well, I'll tell you what, the more the merrier, honestly. Yes, sir.
16 million in just this?
Yes. 114,000 square foot, on 6 acres. Acquisition of property, acquisition of the land, the development, and everything else involved in that.
150 a foot.
Roughly, yep. Yeah.
How many people
we
do you
try.
intend to serve?
How many people do we intend on serving there? Honestly, we're equipped to, we could easily have 700-800 members in the fitness center alone. When we look at all the constituents, on an average day, we're estimating probably somewhere around 2,000 people will pass through that space, in some manner, of all ages. And so we're equipped very much to meet that need.
You be doing any video church services there?
We will be doing a church service there on Sunday morning. Now, I'll tell you what, somebody says, well, where's the baptismal? It's that pool thing. But, it's like, no, it's in our gymnasium. So we were going to be offering that, but we didn't build a church. We built a community
I
center.
understand, but you do that at West too.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Where is Hartford House?
Hartford Hub is at the corner of 6th and Hartford. So if you are going over the Harrison Bridge, as soon as you get over, make that hard left, you go right past, I think it's called 6th Street Dive or whatever. That's the popular Purdue bar at the moment. Purdue du jour. Please don't go there at night. Frighten you. And then 2 blocks further and you'll be right at the Hartford Hub.
It's nice.
Yep. So,
One more question.
yes, sir.
Is there a fee for the service center or for the fitness center?
There is the fitness center is fee-based. An individual roughly is $30 a month. It's about the same as the Y. And that includes services. Now, also you get the pool as part of that, so you get full access to whatever you need. So you could go in, you could do laps. We're even installing a suit dryer, which I didn't learn about. Those are amazing. Basically, it's a spinner. You walk out of basically with a dry suit after about a minute. It's pretty neat. Now, you're not in the suit when it does that. I just want you to know. Folks, thank you very much. Happy to talk to you later.
Thank you very much, Arvid. Here's a little gift from the Kiwanis Club, so you'll remember us. Thank you.